Here's something you've probably noticed but never really questioned. Walk into the office of any truly successful person, anyone who's built something real, and you'll see a closet that looks almost empty. Steve Jobs had his black turtleneck. Mark Zuckerberg wears the same gray t-shirt. Obama famously said he only wore blue or gray suits because he had too many other decisions to make. At first, you might think this is just a quirk. Maybe they're too busy to care about fashion. Maybe they lack creativity. But here's what's actually happening, and this is going to shift how you see everything. It's not about fashion at all. It's about power. It's about protecting the most valuable resource you have, something you're bleeding out every single day without even realizing it. Your mental energy. You see, there's a hidden cost to every choice you make. Scientists call it decision fatigue. Every morning when you stand in front of your closet wondering what to wear, you're not just picking an outfit. You're spending cognitive currency. You're draining a limited reserve of mental clarity that you'll need later for the decisions that actually matter. The meeting with the investor, the pitch to the client, the moment you have to choose between comfort and growth. And here's the thing most people never realize. By the time you get to those critical moments, you're already running on empty. You've spent your best thinking on things that don't move the needle. Now, contrast that with someone who's eliminated that choice entirely. They wake up, they know exactly what they're wearing, and their mind is fresh, clean. Ready? That's not laziness. That's strategic brilliance. It's the kind of quiet optimization that separates people who talk about success from people who live it. And today, we're going to go deep into why this works, not just with clothing, but as a philosophy that touches every area of your life. Because once you understand the neuroscience and psychology behind this, you'll start seeing where else you're leaking energy, where else you're making your life harder than it needs to be, and most importantly, how to stop. The principle we're exploring here comes from something called essentialism, the disciplined pursuit of less. It's not minimalism for aesthetics. It's minimalism for dominance. It's the understanding that in a world that's constantly demanding your attention, your focus, your energy, the people who win are the ones who learn to eliminate the non-essential. And I'm going to show you exactly how they do it, starting with something as simple as a t-shirt. If you're ready to understand why the wealthiest, most successful people on the planet have learned to say no to variety and yes to systems, stay with me. Because by the end of this, you won't just understand their thinking. You'll have a framework to apply it yourself. So let's start with the science. Why does wearing the same thing every day actually work? It comes down to how your brain handles decisions. Every day you have a finite amount of what researchers call executive function. Think of it like a battery. When it's full, you can make clear, rational choices. You can resist temptation. You can think strategically. But every decision you make, no matter how small, drains that battery a little bit. Should I have coffee or tea? Should I take this route or that route? Should I wear the blue shirt or the black one? None of these feel significant in the moment, but they add up. By noon, most people are running on fumes, and that's when the bad decisions start creeping in. You skip the workout. You say yes to a meeting you should have declined. You order takeout instead of cooking. You procrastinate on the project that matters. Here's where it gets interesting. Your brain doesn't distinguish between important decisions and trivial ones when it comes to fatigue. Choosing what to wear takes the same cognitive load as choosing which business strategy to pursue. They both pull from the same mental reserve. So when successful people eliminate the trivial decisions, they're not being boring. They're being ruthless about protecting their capacity for the decisions that actually build wealth, health, and freedom. This is the hidden mechanism behind their success. It's not that they're smarter than you, it's that they've structured their lives to keep their minds sharp when it matters most. Let me give you an example that'll hit close to home, especially if you're here in California where there's this pressure to always look a certain way. Imagine it's Monday morning. You've got a big presentation at 10. You wake up and the first thing you do is open your closet. You pull out a shirt? No, doesn't feel right. You try another. Maybe. You start thinking about what everyone else will be wearing. You remember that comment someone made last week about your outfit. You're standing there 15 minutes in and you still haven't decided. Now, 15 minutes doesn't sound like much, but what's really happening in your brain during that time? You're activating your prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for complex decision making. You're weighing social variables, aesthetic preferences, comfort levels. You're simulating potential futures where people judge you. And all of that mental activity, that's energy you're not going to get back. Compare that to someone who's already decided. They open their closet. Same thing they wore yesterday. Same thing they'll wear tomorrow. No thought required. They're in and out in 30 seconds, and their mind? Still fresh, still sharp, still ready to dominate that presentation. This isn't about vanity or simplicity for its own sake. It's about energy management. It's about understanding that your consciousness, your ability to focus and create, operates like a currency. And the wealthy have figured out that the less they spend on meaningless transactions, the more they have to invest in what compounds. Now here's the contrast. Someone with a scarcity mindset looks at this and thinks, but I need variety. I need to express myself. I need to keep up with trends. And that's the trap. Because what they're really saying is, I need external validation. I need people to see me a certain way. And every time you dress for someone else's approval, you're not just spending money on clothes. You're spending mental energy on managing an image. You're outsourcing your sense of worth to how people perceive your wardrobe. That's exhausting. And more than that, it's a subtle form of slavery. You've made yourself dependent on the opinions of people who honestly aren't thinking about you as much as you think they are. The abundant mindset works differently. It says, I know who I am. I don't need my clothes to prove anything. And that's liberation. That's when you stop performing and start producing. Because here's the truth most people don't want to hear. Nobody successful is looking at your outfit. They're looking at your results. They're looking at what you've built, what you've created, what value you bring to the table. And if you're spending your mornings obsessing over which shoes match which belt, you're focused on the wrong game entirely. Let's go deeper into the philosophy here because this principle extends far beyond clothing. The reason Steve Jobs wore the same thing wasn't just about decision fatigue. It was about identity. He understood something most people miss. Your environment, including what you wear, shapes your psychology. When you put on the same outfit every day, you're creating a uniform. And uniforms have power. They signal to your brain, this is who I am, this is what I do. Athletes have uniforms. Soldiers have uniforms. Surgeons have uniforms. Why? Because the uniform removes ambiguity. It creates focus. It tells your subconscious, when I wear this, I perform. Now, think about your closet. If it's full of different styles, different colors, different vibes, what is that telling your brain? It's telling your brain that you're still figuring out who you are, that you're still experimenting. And experimentation is fine when you're young, but at some point you need to commit. You need to decide who you're becoming and eliminate everything that doesn't align with that identity. Your outer world reflects your inner world. A cluttered closet is a cluttered mind. A streamlined closet is a streamlined identity. And when your identity is clear, your actions become effortless. Here's where most people get stuck. They think simplifying means losing something. They think, if I wear the same thing every day, I'll be boring. I'll lose my personality. But that's backwards. Your personality isn't in your wardrobe. It's in your words, your work, your presence. In fact, the most magnetic people you'll ever meet are often the most consistent in how they show up. They're not trying to be different every day. They're trying to be excellent every day. And excellence requires consistency, not variety. So what's the action here? What's the step you can take today that'll start shifting this? It's simple. Pick your uniform. That's it. Not 10 outfits. Not a capsule wardrobe. One uniform. Something you can wear in almost any context. For men, that might be a black t-shirt and jeans. For women, maybe a simple dress or a consistent combination of a top and pants. The specifics don't matter. What matters is that you commit. You decide, this is what I wear. And then you stop deciding. Now, I know what you're thinking. But what about different occasions? What about work versus weekends? Here's the thing. You can have variations of the same uniform. Obama didn't wear a blue suit to the gym, but he had a system. Work equals suit. That's the uniform. You can do the same. Work equals this. Casual equals this. But within those categories, no variation. You're not choosing every morning, you're following a protocol. And protocols remove friction. They remove the cognitive load that's been holding you back. Let me walk you through a visualization that'll help you internalize this. Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine waking up tomorrow morning. You get out of bed, and instead of standing in front of your closet paralyzed by options, you already know what you're wearing. You put it on in under a minute. No second guessing, no mirror checks, no wondering if it's right. You're dressed and your mind is clear. Now imagine walking into your day with that clarity. You're in a meeting, and while everyone else is distracted, tired from 100 small decisions, you're sharp. You're present. You're the one asking the right questions, making the smart moves. That's the power of this practice. It's not about the clothes, it's about the mental space you create by removing unnecessary complexity. Now let's zoom out and connect this to something bigger, because this isn't just about you. This is about the culture we're living in. We're surrounded by an economy that profits from your confusion. Every ad you see, every influencer you follow, every store you walk past, they're all designed to make you feel like you need more. More variety, more options, more stuff. And that constant pressure to consume, to keep up, to express yourself through what you buy, that's a trap. It's a trap that keeps you broke, distracted, and mentally exhausted. The fashion industry alone generates over $300 billion a year by convincing people that last season's wardrobe is obsolete. That's not serving you. That's serving them. When you choose to wear the same thing every day, you're opting out of that system. You're saying, I'm not playing that game anymore. And that's a radical act, because in a culture obsessed with appearance and status signaling, simplicity becomes rebellion. It becomes a statement that says, my worth isn't in my wardrobe, it's in my work. And when you make that shift, everything changes. You stop spending money on things that depreciate. You stop spending mental energy on things that don't matter. And you start investing both of those resources into things that compound. Your skills, your relationships, your wealth. Let's break this down into a complete system, because once you've picked your uniform, there are levels to this. Level 1 is clothing. That's where most people stop. But level 2 is routine. What else in your life can you systematize? Your morning routine, your meals, your workout. Every area where you're making the same decision over and over again is an area where you can install a protocol. Mark Zuckerberg doesn't just wear the same shirt. He eats the same breakfast. He works out at the same time. He's built a life where the mundane is automated so his mind is free for the meaningful. Level 3 is environment. This is where it gets really powerful. Your environment should support your identity, not challenge it. If your goal is to be focused and productive, your space should reflect that. Clear surfaces. Minimal distractions. Everything has a place. When your environment is chaotic, your mind is chaotic. When your environment is intentional, your mind is intentional. Successful people understand this. That's why their homes, their offices, even their cars tend to be simple. Not because they can't afford luxury, but because they've realized that true luxury is mental clarity, and mental clarity requires space. Here's where people typically fail. They try to do too much at once. They clean out their entire closet, restructure their whole routine, and redesign their life in a weekend. And then they burn out. They go back to old habits because the change was too drastic. So here's my advice. Start with clothing. Commit to your uniform for 30 days. Just 30 days. See how it feels. Notice the mental space you gain. Notice the extra time in your morning. Notice how much clearer your mind is by midday. And then, once that's locked in, move to the next level. Add a consistent morning routine. Then systematize your meals. Layer these habits slowly and they'll stick. The other place people get stuck is social pressure. Someone's going to comment. Someone's going to say, "Why do you always wear the same thing?" And here's how you respond. You don't justify. You don't explain. You just say, "It's my uniform." Or better yet, "It's one less thing to think about." And you move on. Because here's the truth. The people who question your simplicity are usually the ones drowning in complexity. They're projecting their own chaos onto you. Don't let their confusion pull you back into the noise. This is about self-respect. It's about respecting your time, your energy, and your potential enough to stop wasting them on things that don't serve you. Every morning you spend choosing an outfit is a morning you're not spending on your craft. Every dollar you spend on clothes you'll barely wear is a dollar you're not investing in your future. And every moment you spend worrying about how you look is a moment you're not spending on who you're becoming. That's the real cost of complexity. It's not the money, it's the opportunity cost of your attention. So let's bring this full circle. We started by observing that successful people wear the same thing every day. And now you understand why. It's not about fashion. It's not about being boring. It's about protecting their most valuable asset, their mental energy. It's about creating systems that remove friction. It's about building an identity that's clear, consistent, and powerful. And here's what's beautiful about this. You don't need to be a billionaire to apply this principle. You don't need to wait until you've made it. You can start today. Right now. By making one decision that eliminates 1,000 future decisions. Imagine your life 1 year from now. You've been wearing your uniform every day. You've systematized your routine. You've cleared out the clutter. And as a result, you've had more mental energy for the things that matter. You've built something real. You've grown in ways you didn't think possible. Not because you worked harder, but because you eliminated the distractions that were holding you back. That's the legacy of this practice. It's not about the clothes, it's about the clarity. And clarity is the foundation of everything else. Think about the opening observation we made. The homes of successful people are simple. The closets are almost empty. And now you see it differently. That emptiness isn't poverty. It's power. It's the power that comes from knowing exactly who you are and what you're here to do. It's the power that comes from refusing to let the noise of the world dictate how you live. It's the power of essentialism. The disciplined pursuit of less so you can focus on more. So here's my challenge to you. This isn't just information, this is transformation. But transformation only happens when you act. So pick your uniform today, not tomorrow. Today. Go to your closet. Find the one outfit that feels right, the one that's comfortable, versatile, and aligns with who you're becoming. And commit. Commit to wearing it for the next 30 days. No exceptions, no variations, just consistency. And watch what happens. Watch how your mornings get easier. Watch how your mind gets sharper. Watch how the energy you used to spend on trivial decisions starts fueling the big ones. And let me ask you something. What would your life look like if you stopped spending your mental energy on things that don't matter? What could you build? What could you create? What version of yourself could you become if you had that clarity every single day? Because that's what's waiting for you on the other side of this decision. Not just a simpler wardrobe, a simpler, more powerful life. The kind of life where you're not reacting to the world. You're creating it. The kind of life where you're not exhausted by noon. You're energized, ready, unstoppable. The wealthy already know this secret. They've already made this shift, and now you do too. So the question isn't whether this works. The question is, will you do it? Will you take the step? Or will you stay stuck in the complexity, the chaos, the endless cycle of decisions that drain you dry? The choice is yours. But I'll tell you this. The people who are going to win in the next decade, the ones who are going to build wealth, create impact, and live with real freedom, they're not the ones with the most options. They're the ones with the most clarity. So who are you going to be?